Hi, my name is Ray Naylor, and this is the 31st episode of the Performing Songwriter. My guest today, Norman Taylor, is a singer-songwriter, acoustic blues, and soul performer from the Philadelphia area. He has opened for such performers as Guy Davis, Chris Smither, and the band ZZ Top. He has played numerous festivals, including the Philadelphia Folk Festival. His Blue Soul recording was nominated for the Best Acoustic Blues Album in 2014. I'll be back shortly to talk to Norman Taylor, and we'll hear a number of his songs. Norman, thanks a lot for coming on the show.
Oh, you're welcome, Ray. It's great to be here.
Now, you're from New Jersey.
That's right, yeah.
And now you actually been doing music since you were a child. And how did that lead to being a songwriter?
Well, when I was as a small child, I sang in choirs in church and things like that. And then when I moved to New Jersey as a boy, I got involved with playing guitar in a guitar class that we had in high school. And, I started to dabble in that, and then there was a jazz band, and I got halfway decent, at least enough to play in jazz band, for whatever that's worth. And, that's all those things led me into the music, and the music that I grew up with. The songwriting came a lot later, though. It just came out of necessity, out of performing, and I was around a lot of singer-songwriters, and that seemed like the thing to do, to always be doing covers what wasn't going to get me the kinds of things that I wanted to do, the kinds of gigs that I wanted to get. So I started to write songs almost out of necessity.
Now you have kind of like a couple different styles that you perform, and maybe just let people know what they are.
Yeah, I kind of, I'm mostly an acoustic-based guitarist. I do play some electric now with my band. But I guess stylistically, I kind of dabble between acoustic blues, or sometimes it's called country blues, or it's the blues that was before the Second World War, and I dabble in that style, but modern versions of it as well as some of the traditional stuff. And then I'm also really connected to soul music, especially the soul music here and around Philadelphia area, because it's a music that I grew up to, as a child, listening to on the radio. So I'm connected to that.
When I talk about our songwriting topic today, and blues, like traditional blues, very much influenced the early rock and roll, and you were influenced by rock.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And talk a little bit about that influence. In general, but also how that has influenced, in what ways it has influenced your songwriting. Right.
Well, what wound up happening was when I relocated, I'm from Philadelphia initially. When I relocated to New Jersey and around the junior high school time, I met up with kids who had a more diverse palette of music. The neighborhood or the place that I lived was very interracial, was racially mixed. So a lot of kids were listening to rock music. And so I started to turn on to the Beatles naturally. Although my dad played some Beatles as well in the house. But bands like Led Zeppelin and the Rolling Stones. And I found myself in the Allmans and the Doobie Brothers as well. Real huge Doobie Brothers fan. I loved them. But I found myself really gravitating toward that music. Well, little did I know, especially in the case of the Stones and Zepp, that they were drawing from roots blues artists like Robert Johnson.
Yeah.
And so, as I started to research and come back to it, it led back to those things. But I guess that era of music, as far as songwriting goes, it informs me because that particular era that they call the classic rock era was rich with a lot of ingenuity. There was a lot of craft in the songwriting.
Oh, yeah.
There was a lot of great harmonic compositions. I mean, these guys really were studied. And they did it in a non-digital age. They made these great recordings in a non-digital age, so they had to be on, and they had to have a kind of perfection about them that's really nice. So I draw from that, and that's still in my blood.
I don't know if anybody would agree with me on this, but I always thought that rock music I'm talking about, especially the 70s music, in certain ways, it's almost like classical music. I mean, the instrumentation, just the melody.
Oh yeah, oh absolutely. I think that absolutely they're very much wedded together because they were the musicians at that time. Even if they weren't studied musicians, in other words, if they were mostly folk musicians, they had a lot of session people. I mean, when you look at the great albums in those time periods, like, well, look at Paul Simon's album, Still Crazy After All These Years, all the great New York session players that were on that informed it. Now, Simon studied composition as well, but it's such a rich album. You know, people like, I got to meet, back in, I did the Philadelphia Folk Festival 2014, and I was right near Janice Ian. She did a workshop right after I performed in the same stage. And another just amazing songwriter, great compositions, great movement, a lot of attention to melody. And I think that's because it was drawn from the jazz and a lot of the jazz influence and the pop influence from that day too. You know, the brill building stuff and all of that drew that out in people. So, you know, they had that kind of sensibility in their writing.
Yeah. I'm going to have you do your first two songs.
Okay.
And we're going to put you in the center here.
Okay.
While we're doing that, the next show is with a young woman from Philly, Emily Drinker, who you're familiar with.
Yeah, good friend. Yeah,
she's very good. And we're going to show. I'm going to show a portion of a video of her performing with a couple other people, and then you'll be back, and we're going to hear two of Norman's songs.
All right, so this song I'm about to do right now is called 100 Miles from Memphis. It's a true story about me going down to Memphis and realizing that most of the music that I love comes from that part of the world. Here we go. I'm 100 miles from Memphis, it's where I am. Yeah, I'm 100 miles from Memphis, it's where I am. I'm driving on Route 40 and going to get there as soon as I can. It's the land of my song, the place of my heart. Yeah, it's the land of my song and it's the place of my heart. I may not be from Memphis, but we're never far apart. Gospel, soul, and blues are the seeds of this land. Yeah, gospel, soul, and blues are the seeds of this land. I pick from that tree and I taste that fruit when I can. The sounds of Beale Street beat from within. Yeah, the sounds of Beale Street beat from within. The voices of sun records and the horns of stacks in the wind. 'Cause I'm 100 miles from Memphis. It's where I am. Yeah, I'm 100 miles from Memphis. It's where I am. Riding on Route 40, gonna get there as soon as I can. All right. Okay, so this next song is a new song I wrote recently. It's called Grown Folks. It's going to be on my new CD, probably coming out either later this fall or possibly next spring. We'll see how that goes. And it's just about how maybe people can act better in relationships. We'll see how it goes with folks. Here we go. Hear the front door open in the middle of the night. What are you doing with your coat and bags? Is it 'cause we didn't get things right? If you walk out that door, it might be the end. If you stay right here, right now, we don't need to start over again. Sometimes things fall apart. They're held together by two beat up broken hearts. I know it seems bad, but we'll get through. Put down your things. Let's talk it out like grown folks do. Did I mess up somehow or miss a cue? Did I say something to piss you off, mess with you? Let's turn on the lights. Let's talk this out. We don't do it like lovers do, and we don't have to scream and shout. Sometimes things fall apart. They're held together by two beat up broken hearts. I know it seems bad, but we'll get through. Sit down, let's talk it out like grown folks do. Sometimes things fall apart. They're held together by two beat up broken hearts. I know it seems bad, but we'll get through. Put down your things, let's talk it out like grown folks do.
Before I ask, well, my question is going to be in terms of performing. But I'm going to show two parts of videos of you performing.
Okay.
One, and I'm going to make sure I don't get this right, one at the Blues Blast Magazine Awards.
Yeah.
You won an award.
Well, yeah, I was actually nominated for
Awards.
Best Acoustic Blues Album 2014, yeah.
And the other one is at the World Cafe in Philadelphia.
Okay.
One audience is a listening audience. The other audience, you can hear a lot of people talk.
Yeah, I think that's World Cafe.
Yeah, World Cafe.
Yeah,
so I want to ask you how you deal with that as a performer.
Right.
But before we get into that, take a look at these two videos, just clips of the kind of the differences.
Leave me on my way. Oh, Lord, live inside me. Leave me on my way. Leave me home. Leave me home. Leave me home. Oh, leave me. Now that old muddy river, we would leave out in the morning and stay all day. If I could go down to the river and watch my heart sing, I'd go down to the river today. If I could go down.
So as a performer, you always, at some time or another, you'll get in front of an audience that is talking.
Right.
How do you deal with it? How do you approach that?
I think you just play your music and you play it earnestly. I got to say that World Cafe audience, those are my friends actually talking. Those are people that I knew.
Yeah.
That was me doing supporting for a woman named Lillian Yo, who's an amazing singer-songwriter. Yeah, and they were they were all together and they hadn't seen each other in a while, and so there was all this talking. But I guess I just play my music, and at a certain point, I don't, I get their attention hopefully by what I'm doing, but if not, I just keep going because it's sort of, I'm not trying to manage their experience like you say, and it really, I'm not going to like sing over them or yell or whatever, it takes to grab their attention,
Yeah, you don't really have a choice. I mean, you're not going to tell them to shut up.
Yeah, exactly. So
you may be thinking it, but
right. And the guy who took that video, he took it. I think that video was actually a cell phone video. It was Lily's.
So he's in the audience.
Husband. He's in the audience. So
I figured
it wasn't.
That.
Yeah, it wasn't taken like it wasn't shot by them.
It wasn't done off the
right. He did it
board.
on a cell phone actually, so it's pretty good. But I like the general performance. I like, so I use it for different things. Yeah. So.
But it's great when you have a listening audience.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When you have them really focus in and paying attention and listening, it's a wonderful thing, And you get that sometimes. I think at a certain level of playing, you have to learn to deal with both.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to say about this, because it's a little bit of a tutorial as well for people who are starting to learn to play and get out there and playing, is don't always play bars. You might be able to make money playing bars, restaurants, but you're not going to develop your show that way.
Right.
You need to play places like the coffee houses, like the little community centers. Sometimes these things aren't always going to pay right away or pay much money, but they will teach you how to have a show, so that when you do a festival, like, you know, I've done Philly Folk, I've opened up for ZZ Top, you've got all that taken care of.
Right.
Is out of the way, because when you have an audience listen to you, believe it or not, when I opened up for ZZ Top, they were listening. I didn't think that was going to happen. I totally expected to get the support act treatment, people just walking in with their drinks and having conversation, who's this guy on stage. But first of all, it was at the Keswick Theater, which is in Glenside, Pennsylvania. Sure. And they had 1,300 people in their seats when I was playing. So I had the same audience as ZZ Top. That was crazy. And they were all focused in. When I, did Going Down the Road and Feeling Bad, they were like that. They were so super focused. So I could have been, oh my God, there's all these people on this huge stage, and here I am, and ZZ Top's playing, and blah, blah, blah. But, because of doing the other types of shows where people right up on me and listening, I was over that,
I just wanted to ask you, you're for at least people from the Philadelphia area that might be watching, you're part of the Folk Song Society's co-op,
right?
And I've had several people that are also, and just talk about that, what that is, and if they have any songwriters, performers here that might be interested in that.
Well, the way the co-op works is it like a co-op. There's a group of us that get together and work with the Philadelphia Folk Song Society, and they help us to promote gigs, promote material. They give you, if you join, they give you little breaks on things. They have little connections with even recording and duplicating of CDs, if that's your thing. They also set you up with performances themselves, and they have a variety of things. And they're really pretty good about it. They've gotten me quite a few shows. Initially, the first time I got into the Keswick was through them. I opened up for Trombone Shorty, and that was through them. And then after that, I was invited back by the people at Keswick to do ZZ Top and Burton Cummings from the Guess Who. Yeah.
And there's a little bit, you pay the Folk Song Society a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's like a nominal fee for the year, but you always make it back.
Yeah,
through the gig. Like they'll almost immediately give you a gig, so you don't lose anything. Like I've never felt like, oh man, I spend this money and nothing came of it. And that has happened to me with other things, but that's just the nature of the business,
Yeah. We're going to hear a couple of your songs, your last two songs, I should say. And while we're setting up here, I have a slide here of some tips for songwriting and performances, which I do a lot on here. So we'll take a look at that, and Norman will be back to do two more songs.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Anyway, this song's called Anywhere But Here, and it's really about running away from problems, but knowing that you really can't run away from them. They always follow you wherever you go. All right, here we go. I'm getting out of town, maybe head southern bound, going no one's around, anywhere but here. I can't feel that pain. Far away it won't sustain. Sorrow can't lay its claim anywhere but here. To stay, can't stand the games we play. Need to go far away, anywhere but here. From a distance I can't feel that pain. Far away won't sustain. Sorrow can't lay its claim anywhere but here. Anywhere but here. Anywhere but here. So this song is called "A River." It's written by a friend of mine named Wanda Johnson, who's from the Low Country, if y'all know where that is, in Charleston, that area, in South Carolina. And I met her while I touring down there. I play down there quite a bit throughout the year. And heard her do this song with a band, and it was great. But I thought it'd make a great kind of country blues song. So here we go, "The River." If I could go down to the river and wash my heart clean, I'd go down to the river today. If I could go down to the river and forget you ever I go down to the river and stay. When I was a boy, growing up in the country, went down to the water with my daddy. We would fish all day out on the banks of that old mighty river. We would leave out in the morning and stay all day. I go down to the river and wash my heart clean. I go down to the river today. If I could go down to the river and forget you ever was, I go down to the river and stay. Was a boy growing up in the country, when the fish weren't even biting, we would stay and stay and stay. And now I know there was more going on than fishing, 'cause you could stand by the banks of the river and watch your blues fade away. I go down to the river and wash my heart clean. I go down today. If I could go down to the river and forget you ever was, I'd go down to the river and stay. I'll go down to the river and wash my heart clean. I'll go down to the river today. Think I'll go down, down, down to the banks of the muddy river. I'll go down to the river and stay.
Okay. Good songs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Somebody wants to learn about you or want to see where you're playing, buy your records. How would they do that?
Okay. Well, I have a website, as most people do, I guess. It's normansblues.com, and most of the information is up there. It maybe needs some updating now. I have a couple of things coming up. In September, I'm playing the Twisted Tale. I believe that's September 18th, but you can check the website for that. That's a solo. And then I'm back there again in October, October 2nd with my band. I also have a full band. And we do both kind of an acoustic and electric set. Although I think at the tail it's going to be mostly electric. It just works out easier there. But when we play out, we break down. We do a small acoustic set kind of in front of the drums. And the drummer brings his snare out and a hi-hat. And we sit kind of semicircle style. And then we take a break. We go up and we plug in. So we kind of get them both in there, which is good.
What's the name of your band?
It's Norman Taylor and Blue Soul.
Who's in there?
Steve Goldstein's on guitar.
I know Steve.
Fabulous guitarist.
He is very good.
One of the most, the most flexible guitar players can play in any style. Kel Weston on bass. He's been a friend of mine for years. Amazing bass player. Played with a lot of bands throughout the city and toured. Played with all kinds of bands from rock to country to punk bands. And Joe Biasi now on drums with us. So he's a really good, solid blues drummer. So it's a good setup. You know, we maybe start adding more pieces to it. Occasionally have guests come in, sit on harmonica and different instruments like that. But right now we're pretty solid 4-piece. You know?
Now you have one CD, right?
Yeah, I have one CD that's on the Soul Stew label. I had an initial CD years ago. I don't even think I have any more of them. It's like my demo. That was all just straight acoustic. I'm working on a CD right now, new one right now. In fact, in a couple of days, I'm going down to D.C., Washington, D.C. to record some more tracks for it. I've played one of those songs, today. And, so we're working on that. Hopefully, I would love to get that out by the end of the fall. We'll see what happens. If I don't, I'm going to wait till spring. So that's what I'll do, to have that one out.
And the one that you have out, you did on your computer, right?
Yes, I did.
It's really good. I always thought, wow, that's...
Thank you. Yeah, the one that I have out, and actually I always say this is what cracks me up. It got nominated by Blues Blast magazine, an Acoustic Blues Award, was recorded on a old white Mac laptop. Using GarageBand and a couple of good interfaces, an Apogee interface and a couple of decent, not super expensive microphones. And it actually almost, won an award, it got nominated. So.
It sounds great.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. Proud of it too.
I just want to mention again, our next show is with Emily Drinker.
Yeah.
And normally there's 2 weeks in between, but that'll be the week after, next week after this show. Norman Taylor, thanks a lot for coming on.
Thanks,
I appreciate it very much.
I appreciate it too. Thanks.
Okay. And we'll be back next week.